Alright, hello, my name is Herman Ostero and you're watching my final presentation for COMM-45. So, when you hear the term critical thinker, who do you think about? You probably think of individuals such as Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, Socrates, or any other intelligent person. Now, what about when you hear the term writer? You probably think of authors such as J.K. Rowling, Langston Hughes, Robert Frost, or any other author. Well, before they got to where they were, they had, of course, have to go through their own journey to become as great as they are as critical thinkers or writers. Myself included, throughout this semester, I became a much better critical thinker than I was before. And at the same time, I became an even better writer. So, for example, this semester, for our first essay, I wrote about American football and its iconic image to American culture. And to be honest, it was pretty difficult because I'm not the hugest fan of football, but I thought to myself, I need to relate football to something I do know. And I related it to Disney and fan culture in general. And with that comparison, I was able to elaborate on my ideas and how with football, you of course have your lovers, your haters, your neutral party, and the people who just understand. And with that critical thought, I was able to write an essay that obtained me a B. For our second essay, we wrote about stereotypes, and I wrote about the Filipino nurse stereotype in American culture. And this one was pretty difficult too because I was stumped at the beginning because I was thinking, how am I gonna write an essay about Filipino stereotypes or just stereotypes in general with having more points than just the history itself? So I tried thinking out the box. It's funny because I wrote this in my room. I looked to the wall and I saw my Filipino flag in my room. And they brought my idea and I was like, oh, I'm Filipino. I have Filipino relatives. I have family members who are nurses, friends who apply to this stereotype. And so I started to write about that. And I also watched comedian Joe Coy, who's Filipino, and makes comedy out of the Filipino stereotype that his mom wanted him to become a nurse, and Filipinos are nurses, of course. And I was able to elaborate my thoughts on that because I myself am Filipino, and I brought the attention of the Filipino stereotype in American culture. And with my critical thinking in this essay, I was able to elaborate my thoughts and thoroughly write them, and I obtained myself a 97%, which is the highest grade I received in all my essays in this class. Lastly, I wrote about how media affects American culture in my third essay in COMM-45. And in my opinion, this was the most difficult essay to write about because with the stereotype essay, I was able to find inspiration through my own heritage. I'm Filipino. I could write about a Filipino stereotype because I apply to it, my life applies to it, relatives apply to it, etc. With this essay, I was just like, okay, I'm an American. How do I apply this to my culture? How do I apply American culture with media and how are we affected? I was trying to brainstorm and come up with a bunch of questions to see what I can write about. And of course, I did what any other teenager would do. I went on social media and I saw a tweet from a friend and So sad to say this, but he said it's sad boy hours. And that's when it came to me. I thought about and wrote about how depression is or has risen amongst young people, and how even like depression and mental health issues have been normalized amongst the young community. We have terminology such as sad boy hours and simp, and depressed has become a common thing amongst young people. And I was able to write about that because I myself am 19 and I'm surrounded by all of the, how I should say, teenage culture. And also, I was able to write about how Americans are impacted by media because the media collects our information and tries to manipulate us with our own likes and interests. And overall, I wrote an essay that received me an A. And throughout the semester, I was able, with the practice of writing these essays and challenging my critical thinking, I was able to become a better writer and critical thinker at the same time. So thank you for watching. This was my final presentation.